everyone, thanks for watching laurieWIRED, and in this video we're going to continue our analysis of our Android banking Trojan, and I think I'm going to dive back into the code and just look around a few different areas and a few different potential entry points or components of the application and see if I can find anything interesting and maybe just kind of clean up the code and rename some variables as we go. So let's get right into it, and let me open up my JADX. So I have my sample open right now. I'm gonna head over back to my Android manifest and let's see what different classes we have that can potentially be triggered by different intents across the device or anything like that. We have a few services as well. I'm gonna skip the ones that I've already named and just go to the ones that I haven't analyzed yet, just to see if there's any additional code we can find inside of these. Let me see what we have. Let me go through. Here's one activity that I haven't named yet. So this is saying, is role available, Android app role SMS. So it's saying, is it the default SMS manager? Easy enough. This is a really short class. I can just name this. So I'll name this Malware. And let's just do SMS role manager. And if, let's see, start activity for result, Android app role SMS. Okay, yeah, that's fine. I think that's a perfectly good name for this. And next I have a service component. Let me see what's inside of here. This is just setting our main work. And this is an extending intent service. I don't know if this is really doing anything. I think this is kind of just a junk class. So this on-handle intent is going to get triggered once this intent service is actually started. So it receives the intent it's listening for. And yeah, it's just instantiating our main work, instantiating our string class, and then setting a local instance variable to maybe a decoded string. I don't think this is doing too much. Let me see if this is referenced anywhere. Yeah, this is a private string too, so even if something else was instantiating this class, it wouldn't be able to access this private string since it's not protected or public or anything. So I think this is pretty much junk. So I'm gonna call this malware junk service. I don't think this is doing anything. Let me see if this is referenced. I don't think this is even referenced anywhere. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna make sure that I'm turning on my settings so that it does show me all of the code, because sometimes JADX will complain that I can't decompile the code properly. So it actually just won't print the code at all, and you'd actually have to look at the smally code. But sometimes it's actually pretty okay, even if it fails to fully decompile properly. So I like to just turn on this show inconsistent code, because JADX will still warn you if it's showing something that's not properly decompiled. I just want to see it anyway. So let me see. Well, that didn't change the class at all, but let me try my cross-references again by hitting the X key. Nope, I really don't think this is called anywhere. So let me go back to my manifest. Why won't it let me go? Pressing the back button. Okay, never mind. I'll do it the hard way. I'm back in my manifest and I'm just going through. Let me see, did we have an application subclass? We did not, so that's fine. Application subclass would be inside the application tag, and it would run actually even before the main activity, but we do not have one in this case, which it's not required, so that's fine. And let me see, we have another activity. Let me look at this one. Do we have a Google API activity? Looks like the name is going to be com Google Android. We already have com bth goq, but it doesn't look like we have a com.google. So I don't think this exists. Either it is never called, or maybe it is inside of our APK that is actually missing. So it could be either one of those. And let's move on to, I think this service looks like it's next. BFCO. Let me see, this one actually does have some functionality inside of the onHandle intent. So this is another intent service, and this is going to be a copy of our main work class. So I'm going to call this malware main work, since it's just the instantiation of that. Let me name this one as well. Call this string encode class. And the kind of convention that I like to use is, if it's a variable name, I'm not going to capitalize the first letter of this if it's just the variable pointing to a class, but class names I do capitalize, so that's how I can kind of differentiate between them. And this is our constructor. So let's see what's happening in the onHandle intent, since this is automatically triggered by the Android runtime when this intent is actually received. Let me see what we have. We have malware sleep. So this we already took a look at. It was just doing time.sleep for I think 10 seconds. Let's see what this mainwork.k is going to be doing. Let's see. Get system service device policy. And it's going to be catching that. This is probably going to be an error message that it's catching. So let's see. I'm just going to name this malware. Let's see. What was it? Device policy. I think it was get. So let me do get device policy service. And it's returning nothing. It's getting that, and then it's calling this L. And then this is getting audio manager. And let's see, we have audio manager. We're getting the audio service from the device. So that's going to be a system service running on the device. So it's getting that for the current context. Set stream mute, set stream volume, set vibrate settings. So I think this is actually just maybe triggering a sound here. So it's actually manipulating the audio manager, so that's easy enough to name. I'm going to call this malware set audio manager. Looks good. So it looks like we have this while loop, and it's going to be editing the shared preferences. Remember, this was kind of the config that is shared between all of the different Android components of this application. So it's kind of like our configuration for this particular application on any given device that it's actually infecting. So let me see if I can see what string it's comparing to. So this for the context, and then it's doing our string encode class, then this E variable. So let's decode our string. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to pull up my Java decoder one more time. And let's get rid of the old one, paste this one in. So it's locked device. Okay, I think it's trying to see if it's able to lock the device. Not super interesting, decently interesting. Let's see, what did I call this? Malware, string, and I wanted to call this the actual string literal lock device. Let's go back. And it's trying to see if the device is locked, since, let me make sure you're able to see this. Whoops. Let me fix that. But anyway, so it's trying to compare it to the literal value 1. So I think it's trying to check and see if the device is locked, and maybe setting a noise if the device is locked or if the device isn't locked. So that's kind of interesting. I'm going to call this one malware lock device with audio check. Okay, cool. So that's another service running on the device. Let's go back to our manifest and just kind of keep diving through all of these different classes, since this is giving just a really good idea of what the full capabilities of this application are. And I'm kind of cleaning up the code as we go, which is fun. I really enjoy cleaning up the code. So, did it change my class name? Looks like it didn't update. Maybe it'll update next time I open it, I hope. Moving on, we've got another activity. Let's see what this is doing. Man, a lot of these are super short classes. They're really easy to analyze, which, you know, I'm not complaining. Makes my job easier. Let's go through, kind of do some repetitive work. Not me, malware. String encode class. Just, it makes it a lot easier to read, so I like to fix all these variable names. So we'll do malware, main work. Hope to goodness that I don't change any of these class names, because then that would make my variable names really annoying, because I'd have to go through like every single class and change them. But yeah, I think we'll be good. And we have another class called A. And I think this is going to be a separate one. It is, because we have multiple different ones named A. That's really irritating. It makes it really confusing to analyze these. Let me call this, okay, private component name, public component name that's returning the private variable. Okay, so we can actually get to this private variable. And this one is just getting the package name, and then this class.name, which is a device admin receiver. Let me rename this. Well, I don't want to name it the same thing as device admin receiver, because that is also an Android framework name, so that'd be really confusing. I don't even know if JADX would let me do that. I'm gonna call this my, or maybe like, yeah, I'll just call it my device admin receiver. And let's call this one return my device admin receiver. Maybe I'll go for the challenge of the longest class names in the world. But I like them to be descriptive so I can come back and remember what I was talking about when I named it, or else you just get really confused. Okay, so get intent, get extra string, or get string extra, which is kind of like a parameter for an intent. So an intent, remember, is a messaging object that is sent to different applications, or maybe different components inside of an application that have registered to receive this particular intent or messaging object. And the additional parameters can be passed to or through these intents by these extras. So it is seeing if it got this intent and then pulling the actual argument value of these extra parameters. Okay, so it's get string extra, and then this is going to be the parameter name. So let's see what this name is. We do this. We'll do our decoder, admin. Okay, a lot of stuff trying to see if we have admin on here. Go back. So it's trying to see if the extra string is 1. So I think it's trying to see if we have device admin enabled. And if that's the case, then it's going to create this new intent. Or maybe if that's not the case, not sure. So either if we don't have admin enabled, or we do have if we do have admin enabled, then it's going to do these. I don't really care either way. Let me just see what this is. So this is creating a new intent. Remember that messaging object. I'm going to double click and see what this is. And more device admins. So if not, I think then it's going to create a new intent to enable our device admin. And I'm going to have to change these dots. So this is the actual action for add device admin. So it looks like it's adding a new device admin. I think that's what this is doing. And it's setting up some new parameters. So these are going to be the parameters that are sent when this device admin message is sent across the device. So let's see what parameters it's adding. hate when that does that. Brings me all the way to the right. Oh, extra. Okay, I thought this was the same for a second, and that confused me. I can always look up what are the parameters for this intent object. I'm not sure I'm gonna bother. Pretty much know what it's doing. I'll just fix it so I can make sure I know I've analyzed all of this. And it's doing return my device admin receiver, which is I think the class we just did, .a, which is returning the component name. Let me do that. So this is malware component name of this my device admin receiver component. Looks good. One more string we need to do, which is going to be this one. Add explanation. Kind of boring. Oh well, you gotta analyze them all. Fixing this. I think we got all of them. So it's getting the system service. Otherwise, it's removing the active admin. Okay. Let me name this class since we have analyzed everything. So we'll call this set device admin. I think that looks good. All right. Ah, man. I try and go back to get to my manifest, but it does not let me because I clicked on all of these different variables. So I will just click. So hard. Okay, now I'm gonna go on to this receiver. I wish this would update for me. Let me see if I can. I don't really want to mess anything up though. I'll just leave it. I'll just remember my spot. Oh, I didn't want that one. I wanted this one. Oh, it's the same thing. I already looked at that one then. Yeah, that makes sense. So this device admin receiver here was related to this device admin disabled, device admin enabled. So it's listening for all of these different actions that are broadcast across the device. So let me move on since I think we have hopefully covered all of the different device admin capabilities here. Let me move on to my next activity. So this looks like it is listening for some SMS actions across the device. Let me see. Oh, I think this is a class that we actually don't have. Let's see, com, bth, goq, we need an xyr. And it does not look like we have this, so this is again inside of our mystery APK that we will get eventually. I'm gonna move on to the next class since I'm kind of just going through and fixing all of the classes we do have right now because we actually had a lot of behavior even without that additional APK. So I think we've got quite a bit of the malicious behavior. It looks like it's literally just hiding when it's trying to return an SMS message or something like that, which is fine because we can still see all of the other ones, except for this one. I'm just gonna keep going until I find one that exists. Already analyzed this one. Web client class, I think we analyzed this already. Somewhat. Yes, we did a partial analysis of this. So this was opening up an HTML page, and I think it was checking a few of the different events, getting the language. I don't think I'll go through and set all of the variable names for this. I think I'll just leave it as is. Pretty much know this is our web client class. Let me move on to the next activity. And this one does exist. That's nice to see. So this is another web Chrome client. So it looks like we have more web stuff going on, and wow! This is awful looking. There's a lot of behavior here. But if you remember, we did have something mentioning the injection when we looked at the different preferences that was dynamically dropped when we were analyzing this sample. So I think this is related to that. Here's our edit shared preferences for our app inject. This actually looks pretty interesting. Oh, okay. Maybe we're injecting a web page. I think that I am going to go through and fully analyze this because it looks like it is potentially doing a lot. Let me just start off my analysis here and kind of see how far we get. So I'm gonna go malware, string, and code class. We know the drill. Malware, main, work. And let's see, what was the name of this? Do we have a constructor? Does not look like we have a constructor for this. So that means the first thing that's going to run, since this extends activity, should be, I think, on create. Oh, it looks like we have a bunch of nested classes inside of here too. I'm actually gonna go through and name these first, because I think since they're all named single letters, it gets really confusing to see all of these, and that bothers me, so I'm gonna go name these. So let's name this Malware Web Chrome Client and Malware Web View Client. So hopefully this will ease up our analysis of the rest of this. Let me see if this is even referenced. Oh yeah, it is. Okay. That's good, I'm not doing this for nothing. Here's another class, but I don't think this has a really simple name. Not extending anything. So I might have to go through and analyze this a little more before I can figure out what it's doing so I can give it an appropriate name. I kind of just want to rename this class right off the bat because this whole thing is just looking really messy. So I'm gonna call this malware maybe web something, so I remember to come back to it, but that way I can tell that it's referencing itself. Ooh, man, many different times. What is this doing? Okay, it's getting its context. Oh, we did have a constructor, it was just down here. So setting stuff to the empty string and basically initializing all of these variables to the empty string. We also have an onCreate method. This is editing the shared preferences for app inject. And let me see what this was doing. Turn a dot get string. Okay, so this was actually getting the shared preferences. So for this particular string, I think I kind of messed up the name on this. I shouldn't have called it edit shared preferences. Let me rename this so that it's a little more clear. I'm just gonna call this malware get shared preferences. That will actually make a lot more sense because it's only passing in one string value. And if you were editing it, you would actually need two. One would be the kind of corresponding variable name of the preference you're trying to edit, and then the second would be the value that you're trying to set it to. So hopefully that will clear things up for me here. So A is going to be getting the shared preferences. B equals that dot edit. Let's see what it's doing with this. So it's interesting that it's getting the shared preferences, but it's calling this edit method, which is a system method. But what does that actually do? And where is this B? Is this going to be a private variable? Oh, okay, so this is initializing the actual editor. Okay, malware, shared preferences, editor. So I think another function is actually going to be doing the editing. And this is just setting up the actual shared preferences. Let me name this one as well. Cool. And let's go back to our other class. Maybe web something. That's the best variable or class name I've ever made in my life, I think. Okay, so we have our edit shared prefs to, I think this might be, oh, there's a lot. Where's the actual, okay, so this actually I think is the editing. So editor.edit, get shared preferences for the setting string. So it's getting this setting string and opening up the editor.putString, and then it's adding the key value pair, which is going to be string 1 and then string 2. So let's rename this to just edit shared prefs, because the other one was just getting the shared preferences. Okay, I'm going to go back. Where were we editing? Here. So get shared preferences, app inject. I'm going to call this cool. I'm going to call this shared preferences name inject. All right, nice. It's coming along really well, I think. And I think, oh, this is looking really good on start. And it looks like this is part of a service. And then this is doing our actual main injection work that we're taking a look at. So I think I'll go through and analyze this function because this looks really cool. But I think I'll actually save this for the next video, and in that one we'll go through and we'll clean up all the code in here and make it look nice and fix all of our variable names. So thanks so much for watching laurieWIRED, everyone. In this video we went through and we found all of the different class names that we hadn't yet analyzed, and we went into the code and started cleaning up all of the different class and variable names so that we could get an overall idea of the functionality of the application, and we fixed a couple different old variable names that we had incorrectly named. So thanks so much for watching laurieWIRED, everyone, and I'll catch you in the next video.